the young, and the restless spoilers. The news of Reed Hellstrom's imminent return to Genoa City had sparked whispers and speculation among those who knew him. Once a rebellious teenager, Reed had grown into a young man, shaped by his experiences away from the shadow of the Newman family. But despite the passage of time, the ties that bound him to Genoa City had never truly been severed. His return, however, wasn't spurred by a desire to reconnect with old friends or rekindle familial bonds, it was driven by a plea for help from someone he couldn't ignore. Katie Newman, Reed's younger half-sister, had always looked up to him. Though years had passed since they last saw each other, the bond they shared was strong. So, when Katie called Reed, her voice trembling with fear and uncertainty, he didn't hesitate. She needed him, and Reed was determined to be there for her, no matter what. Katie's concerns were not trivial. She had uncovered something that threatened to shatter the foundations of their family. For months, she had been harboring a dark suspicion about Claire, the young girl everyone believed to be Victoria Newman's daughter. Claire had been a part of their lives for as long as Katie could remember, but something about her had always seemed off to Katie. And now, as she grew older and more perceptive, Katie's doubts had solidified into a troubling certainty. In her phone call to Reed, Katie laid out her suspicions. She believed that Claire was not Victoria's biological daughter. The more she observed, the more convinced she became that something was amiss. But in a family as powerful and secretive as the Newmans, proving such a thing was easier said than done. Katie had tried to find evidence, but every attempt had been thwarted by Claire's uncanny vigilance. Claire seemed to know, somehow, that someone was watching her, and she was always one step ahead. Reed's heart pounded as he listened to his sister's words. He had always despised deceit and lies, traits that seemed to run deep in the Newman family's history. The thought that his mother, Victoria, might be living a lie, or worse, that she had been lied to, filled him with anger and determination. He couldn't let this stand. The truth had to come out, no matter the cost. After the call, Reed made up his mind. He would return to Genoa City, but this time, his visit would be anything but a casual homecoming. He was on a mission to uncover the truth, and nothing would stand in his way. The plan seemed simple enough: obtain hair samples from both Victoria and Claire, then have them tested to confirm Katie's suspicions. But as Reed considered the logistics, he realized just how difficult it would be. Claire was no fool, she was always on guard, never leaving anything behind that could be used against her. There were no stray hairs on her brush, no discarded nail clippings, nothing that could be casually collected without raising suspicion. What was Claire hiding? Reed couldn't shake the feeling that she was aware of the secret Katie had stumbled upon. Her guarded nature, her constant vigilance, it all pointed to someone who knew they were living on borrowed time. Reed wondered if Claire had always known that this day would come, the day when someone would start asking questions she couldn't afford to answer. As Reed prepared for his return, thoughts of his mother swirled in his mind. Victoria had always spoken highly of Claire, treating her like she was her own flesh and blood. Reed remembered the stories his mother had told him, the way her eyes lit up whenever she talked about Claire's accomplishments. How would Victoria react when Reed showed up, unannounced, with the intention of unraveling the very fabric of her life? The first meeting between Reed and Victoria was bound to be intense. Reed imagined the shock in his mother's eyes when she saw him standing in the doorway, no longer the boy who had left years ago, but a man on a mission. How would she react to his presence, and more importantly, to the questions he was about to raise? Reed knew he had to be careful. He couldn't just blurt out his suspicions to Victoria without any proof. If he was wrong, the consequences could be devastating, not just for Claire, but for the entire family. Yet, if he was right, Victoria deserved to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. As Reed made his way back to Genoa City, the weight of his decision settled heavily on his shoulders. He was walking into a situation fraught with danger, where the wrong move could destroy lives. But Reed was determined. He had to find a way to get the samples without arousing suspicion. Perhaps he could use his reunion with Victoria as a distraction, while he subtly collected the evidence he needed. Meanwhile, back in Genoa City, Claire was oblivious to the storm brewing on the horizon. She was excited about Reed's return, having heard so much about him from Victoria.